startling statements from Sarkis. Here are the latest developments on the Bahamas saga. The developer bashing again.
2 men arraigned in connection with that drug bust off Andros last weekend.
And a former senator testifies in his ammunition possession trial. The Bahamas tonight, the National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
Developer of the multi-billion-dollar Bahama resort slamming government for the recent move placing the ownership of the company into the hands of the China Exim Bank. Good evening, everyone. I'm Charisma Robinson.
And I'm Chris Saunders. Thank you so much for joining us. In a detailed statement today, the embattled leader placed the blame at government's feet, even suggesting a hidden agenda on the Bahamas government part. It comes as the Prime Minister pledges to move forward with the resort, ensuring construction is completed, Bahamians re-employed, and the Bahamian Riviera open. But according to the developer, he's convinced none of these goals can be achieved under this new agreement. Our Clint Watson is live in the studio with the latest on this. Clint, this is a very damning piece of release from Sarkis today.
You said it, Chris. At the least, we can call it that. It could easily be described as his most scathing remarks during the Bahamar issue. Principal of Bahamar, Sarkis Israelian, unleashed the latest war of words, lambasting the government, going as far as to call the latest move of receivership as a calculated political move.
Chief Executive Officer of BMD Holdings, the developer of the Bahamas resort, Sarkis Israelian, says the appointment of a receiver by the Export-Import Bank of China continues the unfortunate pattern of disastrous actions he says is now destroying any hope that Bahamas, as originally conceived for the Bahamas, can become a reality. Israelian says, in his view, China Construction America failed to meet its promises to complete the resort on the timetables it set and failed to meet its financial obligations to Bahamar and engaged in reckless and self-serving actions at the expense of the project. Israelian pointed out the same action is now happening at the Point development in Nassau. Israelian also criticizes the government for what he summed up as failing to meet its promises to Bahamar, including making timely payments of monies it was obligated to pay Bahamar. Israelian says the result was a liquidity crunch last June that put Bahamar at risk. He continued in a statement that to mitigate that risk, the board of Bahamar determined that the proper and only true viable course was for Bahamar to voluntarily file for Chapter 11 under U.S. law. Israelian maintains that under Chapter 11, Bahamar's assets would have been protected and that they would have had the opportunity in a prudent manner to resolve the issues between the parties. The CEO claims his company put forward a plan to pay all valid Bahamian claims in full. They were able to continue to pay the salaries of the more than 2,000 Bahamar employees, and any downsized employees would have received severance, which he's adamant that they will not now receive. Israelian asserts the government of the Bahamas, in concert with China Construction America and China Export-Import Bank, undertook a campaign that resulted in the Chapter 11 being dismissed. He says the effect of this effort by the government of the Bahamas, China Construction America, and the China Export-Import Bank now leaves Bahamar in the position where the China Export-Import Bank is now the owner of Bahamar. Most of its employees have been laid off, widespread collateral damage to hundreds of businesses, and assets are being further impaired. Sarkis Israelian claims that even under these circumstances, he has continued to try to make proposals to achieve a consensual resolution of the issues that would enable Bahamar to be properly completed and to open. Unfortunately, he says the other stakeholders remain more focused on legal and political maneuvers than solutions. In his view, neither China Export-Import Bank appointing a receiver nor winding up liquidation of Bahamar serve the best interests of any party, and certainly not those of the people of the Bahamas. He concludes that while we want to see a beautiful resort open, the goal is also a thriving Bahamas.
And Chris, Charisma, if you thought this saga was over, well, you can guess again. It's far from being over. We do expect to hear from the government. They are reviewing this statement, and sometime later this week, we expect to have a response on their behalf. Live in the newsroom, I'm Clint Watson. Back to you guys.
All right, Clint, thanks a lot. Moving on to some court news. 2 Nassau residents arraigned today in connection with that major drug bust in South Andros over a week ago.
Fern Carey tells us the 2 accused are denying any involvement in the matter.
46-year-old Dwayne Henderson and 40-year-old Carl Spencer are facing 4 drug charges in connection with that drug bust in South Andros almost 2 weeks ago. The duo is accused of conspiring together and with others to import dangerous drugs into the country. They're also facing conspiracy to possess dangerous drugs with intent to supply, importation of dangerous drugs, and possession of dangerous drugs with intent to supply charges. Drug Enforcement Unit officers reportedly made the drug discovery while on routine patrol at Grassy Creek, South Andros. They uncovered a white Go Fast boat and after searching the vessel discovered over 2,000 pounds of marijuana. Both defendants pleaded not guilty to the charges before Magistrate Andrew Forbes. When the magistrate asked if they had any questions, both defendants said no. Bail was denied and they were remanded to the Department of Corrections. However, they can apply to the Supreme Court for bail. Both defendants will return to court on February 16th for trial. Fern Carey, Southern Network News.
The ammunition case involving former Free National Movement Senator John Boswick continued today in the magistrate's court. During the proceedings, Boswick became emotional as he recalled the day he was arrested at the Grand Bahama International Airport. He told the court he had attended a wedding on Grand Bahama with relatives and had taken a backpack with him. He said the backpack had been on his shoulder and on the ground during the trip, including in the back trunk of his rental car and the hotel room where he says the groom and others got dressed for the wedding. Boswick testified that he was surprised at the reception he received at the Grand Bahama International Airport as residents greeted him warmly and told him, in his words, they were excited to meet the next Prime Minister. The accused also recalled that after a magazine with bullets in it was pulled from his bag at the airport security, he had a feeling of total and absolute disbelief. His first thought, he says, then was and now is that he had been, quote, set up. The case continues before Magistrate Andrew Forbes.